All right, everybody, welcome. Today's class is an open discussion. We'll take your kind of split it up into two, kind of like how we did last week. The first half, remember the first hour, we will open up the floor for any questions you may have. And then in the second half, we will go back into our handout and continue with our examination of a brief look at the chakra system and the flow of prana. Also, to open up, I mentioned last week the teaching methodology that we use, the IMKC. So if you can see on your screen, this is a handout that describes our teaching methodology. So it's kind of wanted to open up with this to give you guys an idea of the framework that we use and to illustrate our thinking and our method and how we present the teachings and how Nehemiah structures everything and kind of the path for us to follow as we develop ourselves. So starting on the left-hand side, number one, the foundation framework for understanding the mystic teachings. This follows, like I mentioned last week, the mystic constitution of man, the makeup of not just our physical structure, but our entire auric structure, from the spirit all the way down to our current fourth aspect cells, and not just our cells, but for all life streams, be it mineral, be it plant life, animal life, human life, and so forth. Followed by man's origins and its framework, the spirit to soul, framework of the manifested makeup, the auric body, Shakti into Kundalini, the fourth is the sound, the Nadi system, functioning capacity of man's makeup, the chakra system, mental bodies, formation of pranas, etheric body, astral body, physical body, the mystic pathway to spiritual development, and how that leads to the yoga techniques. So I won't go over all of this, but if you would like a copy of this this handout, I can go ahead and email that to you. But again, this is the general pathway that we follow and that Nehemiah has structured the teachings into for the IMKC to help everyone get a better grasp of this subject and to help you along in your evolution. One thing I do want to bring on as well is number two, well, 2, 3, and 4, but number 2, you notice that he goes into karma, so the divine laws that govern all actions in creation. All yoga are proper actions that aid mankind back to God's state of being. One thing that Nehemiah tells us quite often is that all yoga is karma yoga. Karma encompasses all of the yogas. So you cannot practice any yoga without also practicing karma yoga. And the reason for that is that karma is the framework of all action in creation. Every action you take, from the initial action, the word being spoken into all of creation manifesting, to the divine final action of all manifestation, going back into the going back to God. Everything is created within a framework of karma. So you cannot there's no action you can take, there's no thought you can have, nothing can happen outside the framework of law, outside the framework of karma. And then he goes down to break it down into Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and how they align with this overall theme of divine laws and action, or karma. All right. So I'll leave the rest for you guys to take a look, and there's additional handouts in this document. He also goes into positive karmic pressures of 11 yoga techniques. So again, it's just another illustration to show how karma is intertwined. Karmic actions balanced with Nani wisdom equals in selfish love and service to all forms of life. Karma is intertwined in everything. And each of the yogas, yoga meaning union with God, there are different types of yoga to help you achieve that goal of union with God. But all of it is with the overtone of right thought, right speech, right action, or karma. Okay. Just wanted to open up with that to give you guys an idea of how we approach the teachings and how Nehemiah structured the teachings to revolve around two main themes, karma and mystic constitution. And everything kind of fits into that, I guess you can say, methodologies. So I'll leave those up for a bit, but if you, again, if you would like me to hand a copy of these, I can email them out to you, or I can post up, it'll be easier. I'll post them in the same folder with the Zoom class notes, so you can just go ahead and download those. So let me hop into the chat. I see we have quite a bit of questions already. Give me a second. How do I do that? How do I go back to that? Here we go. Okay, Jack, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, yes. I just wanted to ask a question about reincarnation. I'm pretty sure we get reincarnated as a man, woman, woman, man, man, woman. It's very random, and that we're in different locations, each country and around the country in different places at each time. But could you confirm that? Have I got that right?
Well, first off, there's nothing random about reincarnation. I just wanted to clear that up. Everything is I guess you could say, predetermined between ourselves and our higher self. So you decide where you're going to be born. You decide to whom you're going to be born to, at what time. It's all done according to karma and to whatever objective you and your higher self decide you want to accomplish in that particular life.
Could I be in India one life, in Africa another life, America or next life?
Yes, it depends on what lesson. Remember, we talked about samskaras. Remember?
Yeah, scars on the aura.
Yeah, and it's just not scars on the aura. It's megabytes of energy. If you can imagine a rocket flying through open space, it uses what? Gyroscopes in order to move it from one place to the next. Well, your samskaras act like that. If you have a buildup of a particular samskaras that need to express itself in order to allow you to propel yourself in a different direction, or the forward direction that you need to go, then those samskaras need to either be burnt up and used in a different way or expressed in order to stop weighing you down. So if it means that you need to be born in Russia for 4 lifetimes, then that's what will happen to you. If it means that you need to be reborn in Africa for several lifetimes, that's what happened to you. If it means that you need to take on a particular human classification of a body, then that's what you need to do. But your karma, your karmic pattern that you build for yourself dictate those things. It dictate those things. So everything is predetermined by your higher self. So it's not. I hate when people say, "Oh, it's just random." It's not. It's not random. No, it's not. It's not. It's not random.
But I just meant like you don't keep getting born again and getting in Tibet. Like.
If that's the teachings you need, if that's the experience you need, you will continue to be born in Tibet. But most likely, that's not the teachings you need.
So if you're a very sexist man, you might be reborn as a woman because you need to experience the other
That's
side.
right. That's right.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
or you might continue to be born as a man in order to be thrown in jail and to give you time to reflect too. It depends on what lesson you need. You know, or you might come into a family where your mother and all your sisters are abused, you know, by a sex offender, as you were in your last life, if that's what that person was. I mean, so that they can have a view or a deeper understanding of what they did wrong. And then they might become the defender of those type of people because they have to burn up the negative samskaras that they built up. You know,
But when I
a lot of times when you see activists or soldiers, it's because they have went through that themselves, or they were that themselves, and now they're fighting against it.
But when I try and explain this to skeptics, they say, well, you know, doesn't this perpetuate the negative situation that you keep having to have bad experiences so that the people who've had the bad experiences in the past can learn? So is this kind of it's downward spiral, or?
No, not really, because the more insight you have in something, the greater chance you won't do that again. You know, it's just like someone, they have the first time someone see fire, and they approach the fire and they see that it's very, very hot, and they just can't get it out of their mind, so they keep going to the fire until they stick their hand in the fire. So what happens then? You know, they have a rude awakening. You know, that I shouldn't do that, so I won't be doing that anymore. I go another route, and maybe I put wood in the fire, maybe I put paper in the fire, maybe I put metal in the fire. You know, so the more they interact with that particular thing, the greater knowledge and understanding they have, and eventually they know how to manipulate that energy or that power or that feeling. You know, feeling is consciousness. You know, so when you have a feeling, you have to take it serious, because that's a part of your consciousness being projected out into the open world or into your auric field of your localized field of consciousness or being. So you have to act on your feelings, but how you act is up to you. You can predetermine your actions in a controlled manner, or you can just let it accumulate negative and positive samskaras, negative, neutral, and positive samskaras by your actions, which can send you into, you know, just a domino effect of lessons that need to be learned in order to correct your forward movement.
It's just that many people are abused as children, and they go on to abuse their children, and you know, it seems to perpetuate. But
because they're part of that group consciousness.
Okay.
You know, they have linked themselves with all the people that do that, and all of them are playing on each other in order to overcome that.
So eventually, there's someone, you know, every so often someone comes out of it and rises above it. Okay.
That's why you have certain countries with certain laws that allow stuff like that to go on, and you have other countries with laws that don't allow that. It's a group consciousness.
Okay. And when somebody's born very rich, usually they act pretty badly. No, I mean, they benefit from that rebirth, but then they don't seem to take advantage and help others. I mean, like, is that a gain? Is that like
maybe? I mean, I don't know. I would say all rich people are like that, but I mean, maybe some of them are, maybe some of them aren't. But because of their wealth, sometimes they have uh, a different way of looking at things because it didn't take too much for them to go through to come to conclusions or to experience something the way we were. They don't see all the details that the person who's going through something may have seen. That's just the way it is.
Is it because they created a huge desire to have wealth in the past life, or a huge desire to have fame, and then that's realized?
It's just a karmic pattern that they built for themselves. I think if that's something they went after in this life or the last life or several lives, it's just the experience that they need to have in order to get over that. Okay. It's the path they took.
Yeah, I guess many people who've been very rich or very, very famous virtually everyone has said that it didn't make them happy and they wouldn't wish it upon anyone. And
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sebastian, I will post the link in the chat to a shared folder where you can download today's notes as well as the methodology handout that you see on your screen right now. We have a question in the chat. I have a lot of issues with fatigue and low energy, although I'm healthy. I think it's an internal issue. What can I do to increase and maintain my energy and mood?
I would first say check with a doctor to see if that's a physical ailment that's either beginning to happen or soon to happen. And in the meantime, pranayama, diet, there's a slew of things that we do that can help that. I would study up on the Ayurvedic type natural medicine, and I would definitely practice pranayama, and believe it or not, prayer, and it energizes you. Prayer, the dynamic prayer and mystic prayer, it energizes you as well. And then every now and then we need to check our mental our mental health too. So why? Because it's the mental part of you. They take you into these, and most of the time it takes you into that type of feeling. I hope that answers your question.
Everyone, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat or to use the raise hand feature in Zoom. And we'll go ahead and get those questions answered.
Any other questions?
How can you tell when your spirit is talking to you?
Um, that's let me see how I can answer that. The spirit communicates with the soul. The soul communicates with its different expressions. So the real you is spirit. So in simple terms, the in yoga philosophy, they say the spirit is the I am, and the soul is the I. So the spirit speaks to the soul, and the soul speaks to the lower consciousness or the lower aspects of itself, which is our realm of existence or realm of consciousness. And this is a constant thing. We are constantly led by the higher self or the supra consciousness that's constantly aiding and giving direction to the subconscious mind and conscious mind. and superconscious mind. So I think just like when you go to do something, or you feel an urge or feeling to go in a certain direction, that's the higher self speaking to you, which comes from the soul, which comes from the spirit. So we always have those communications. Just like if we did something wrong, we know it's wrong. No one has to tell us it's wrong. We know that because something in us speaks to us. But we tend to ignore that because we crave we cater to the cravings of our present uh, vehicle of expression. Could be the body, the physical body, the astral body, or the mental bodies, or the emotional, sensational bodies. We cater to those to the needs of those lower aspects of consciousness than our higher aspect of consciousness. And that's what get us in the trouble that we're in. And that's what continue to have us move in the realms, as the yogis call it, of samsara, which is the wheel of rebirth, over and over and over and over and over again. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, everyone, if you look in the chat, I just posted the link to the shared folder with the notes. You can go ahead and download that. So is it possible to stop the reincarnation cycle? And if so, what practices can I utilize in order to stop the karmic wheel, thus preventing the constant reincarnation cycle?
We are told that you have to ascend. This takes many, many lifetimes to do so. You have to we give the pathway in our method of teachings. You go back to that chart, it gives you the pathway to break the wheel of rebirth. But you have to ascend. You have to raise the power kundalini up to the crown chakra, and then you break the wheel of rebirth. At any time you choose to, once you can muster up the power to bring a full rise of kundalini to the crown chakra, you break the wheel of rebirth, which to our understanding takes lifetimes to do. I hope that answers your question. It's not as simple as it sounds.
There's another question. Which steps are needed to detach from a person's energy that you are divorcing? We were married for 25 years and I want to be sure that any of his residual energy is out of my bodies.
That's simple. Frame of mind. Frame of mind, chant mantra, pray. And when you pray and when you do real yogic mystic prayer or dynamic prayer, you raise the vibrations and consciousness of your body. And that's using prayer, dynamic prayer, mystic yogic prayer, and then also japa, which is repetition of mantra. You tend to raise the vibrations of the body and the mental, and the physical body and the mental body, which throw off negative energy from the body. Remember, I always talk about when you chant the mantra, the aura spins, the aura turns into some type of centrifuge where it spins off the negative energy and mental energy. And that energy that is not, that cannot be thrown off at that time because of karmic reason, it lowers those energies to lower centers. So, as your consciousness rise to a higher center, and then you're no longer affected by it for a period of time, as long as you can keep your consciousness within the higher regions. And eventually that negativity will dissolve itself or work itself out because of your positive actions, your positive mental and physical actions. So that's one way to do it, you know. And this is not secret. I mean, you can hear many, many stories of many, many people that get into those situations and they go to the prayer closet. And a lot of the Black and even Latina communities, you have families that set up a certain room or closet for prayer, and that's where they go in order to change the direction of their life. They ask God to give them the power and strength. That's what I'm talking about, and it works. You know, constant prayer. But I'm telling you that it will accelerate itself through dynamic prayer and through mystic prayer with a sense of direction and purpose. Although the people, they do have a purpose when they doing the Orthodox type prayer, and it works. It just works. It takes a while, but with the yogic, mystic, and dynamic prayer, it works really quick. Sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not good, but those are the methods that you use. I hope that answered your question. I hope you understood exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah, so Jones, yeah, to answer your question, we will be in the second half of class. We will be going back over the chakra system and prana flow handout. But right now, in this first half, we kind of open the mic for any questions anyone may have. So, what techniques could you suggest for solar plexus work?
What do they mean by solar plexus work? Because a lot of people have a lot of vague and vague understanding of that, of the chakra system and the solar plexus, and So ask them to clarify that, because I don't want to feed into what I call false knowledge or false reception, that.
Yeah, Bastet, could you expand on what you mean by solar plexus work?
Just to say that contrary to a lot of this popular stuff, all the chakras work in conjunction uh, with each other. No chakra can work by itself and without the aid of the other chakras. Um, remember that chakras are realms of existence and realms of consciousness. So everything is connected. It's just like here on the earth, you could say that the ocean is a realm of existence and the land is a realm of existence. You have the lower part of the land, you have the higher part of the land, which is the mountain, is a realm of existence. You have the different levels of atmosphere is a realm of existence, right? You have life forms that can only live on those levels of existence on the physical realm. If you bring life forms from the mountain regions down to the valley or lower levels, the people will die. Or I mean, the creatures will die. I mean, sometimes people, because sociology, anthropology taught us that when they went into certain countries during the Victorian days and they removed people from their natural habitat and they began to come down sick and unable to cure the sickness until they realized that they had to take them back to their natural habitat and their natural order of doing things. You know, so those are realms of existence, and the realm and the consciousness creates the realms of existence. You know, I remember reading one case in one country where the woman was living in a high region, a high mountain region, and for centuries, or maybe decades or centuries, they did not wear any bras or even blouse or cover themselves their chest. And the sociologists and religious Victorian people came there, they made them cover themselves, and an outbreak of sickness took place. So they had to reverse their actions in order to stop the sickness, because it's a realm of existence that they had created for themselves in their conscious and physical mind. So the oceans feed the inland with rivers. The ocean, the water of the ocean takes care of us through the atmosphere. Water, vapor, or steam, it steams up, creates the clouds flow, come over us, drop rain and on our vegetation, and then we can eat. So every realm of existence help each other. So people tell you that, oh, just work on the sex chakra or the base chakra or the solar plexus. It doesn't work, because when you study the system of chakras, everything correlates and help each other. The Ajna or the third eye chakra is the command center for all the chakras below itself. And it feeds energy, intelligence, and intelligent patterns throughout all the other chakras. It directly correlates with the sex chakra, the base chakra, and regulates and helps to regulate the solar plexus chakra, and gives the time cycles for the heart chakra and the throat chakra. So you cannot isolate one chakra. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It all works together. I hope that answered your question or gave you insight to that.
To expand it into, when I say solar plexus work, I'm referring to increasing energy and the will to take action.
Again, the practices of Raja Yoga, Tantra Yoga, which utilizes 7 different chakras in order to bring that about again. So it's go back to those practices. We have the 8 limbs of yoga, which gives you a pathway that'll take you, that you could start on in this life, but it may take you several lives to achieve. But it's a clear pathway, and it encompasses all the yogas, which uses all the chakras in order to make it work. The same thing with Tantra Yoga. Tantra Yoga looms all the yogas together to prepare you for the advanced levels of Raja Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, and Layer Yoga. So, pranayama yoga helps you to increase energy in the body. Mantra yoga helps you to increase energy in the body. In the mental bodies, the astral bodies, which is the emotional bodies, and the physical body. It helps you create, and if you can harness that energy, it's unlimited, the things that you can do. Okay, I mean, some people can tap into that energy quicker than other people.
Can you suggest a book of mystic dynamic prayer?
Yeah, the Their Society have a book on dynamic prayer. And I'm writing a book on prayer too. I have a draft copy out there. But the Their Society have a pamphlet. It's called Dynamic Prayer Brings Results. They also have a lecture tape I asked them to release on the same subject, Dynamic Prayer Brings Results. It's not on the market yet, the lecture tape, but the book, you can order it offline, aetherius.org.
You've mentioned before that mantra both burns up some scars and pushes them down to the lower centers.
Mantra does what?
Mantra burns up some scars and also pushes some scars down to allow the higher centers to operate better.
Yes.
But in pushing down some scars, wouldn't that to some degree inhibit the functioning of the lower centers?
No, it won't. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. You remember, everything is governed by the law of karma. So let's say if you trying to push pure spiritual energy, which we do when we doing dynamic prayer. In dynamic prayer, we use the mudra where we hold our hands up like this, or like this, and what that does, we bring the hands at the level of the heart chakra, and that helps activate the heart chakra and push energy from the heart chakra along with the hands, the palms of the hands and the fingertips of the hands. The energy is driven there because of the mudra and because of your mental will. So what automatically happens because of the mental state that you're creating, you create a pull and a vortex on this chakra and the hand chakras. And what happens is that those lower those negative energies that have invaded this area will be pushed out the below the heart chakra to allow you a free flow of energy. Okay, because now you have positioned the body in an asana, which is a position of power, according to the ancient yogis. It's called a seat of power or position of power when you begin to do this with direction and purpose and understanding. So you know that in order to push this energy, project this energy out of the body, you must get in that asana, which is this, and you must take on the mental attitude that you're going to bring the energy in, give the energy direction and purpose, and push it out to a target. So what happens, the body, the aura begins to work in a particular way in order to make that mental command possible. Okay? So it shouldn't obstruct any other thing, because the energy will go where it should be. You know, the same way when you begin to do those mystic practices, the ojas of the body begins to move upwards back to the brain where it should be. It shouldn't be in other parts of the body. Okay. I mean, the major ojas, the essence of ojas. Any other questions? That's all the questions to win.
Yeah, that's all the questions that have been posed so far, or asked so far. All right. I guess if there are no further questions, we can move into the handout. Move on to the handout, sorry. See if I can zoom in a bit. All right, so this handout is also in the notes in the folder titled A Brief Look at the Chakra System and the Flow of Prana. So last time we looked at this handout, we covered the first 2 points of the chakras as a series of vortex centers, and the nadis, which are thin lines of force radiating the dormant Kundalini power throughout the auric structure. And if everyone had a chance to review these handouts, and hopefully we have some questions on it. I'm just going to continue reading through the handout and stop periodically to ask Nehemiah to expand on certain points, but also feel free to ask any questions you may have as we go along. So as we were just talking a bit about prana, because prana is a universal life force that radiates throughout creation, mainly through various solar logos or suns. So here it's a universal life force. So that means that that energy is available all throughout the universe, and it is released through the solar logos. What's a logos, Nehemiah?
You asked what's a logos?
Yes.
The logos is considered the consciousness of the Mother Earth, or a planet type level of consciousness or soul / consciousness, I would say. So the Mother Earth, if we reference the Mother Earth has a logos, and that logos of the Mother Earth is that's how we reference the consciousness of the Mother Earth, the logos.
So is that logos a single being or a collection of beings, or is it?
Well, at that point, at the point of a planet, many consciousness have came together in order to form that logos. A planet can be hundreds or thousands of beings that have blended together in order to create the intelligence called the logos and feed billions or trillions of life forms, or make it possible for billions or trillions of life forms in order to gain experience. So it's just not one individual. It's not one as we would think. It's through countless incarnations that these beings come together and form a logos, and then take on the body of a planet in order to service the absolute of God, through giving the lower forms of life a classroom to gain experience, a world to gain experience, multiple realms of existence to gain experience.
And it says here, prana is a universal life force that radiates throughout creation. Now, in physics, we say that energy is neither created nor destroyed. Does that also hold true for prana? And does that mean that there's no new creation of prana, but that there's a fixed amount of prana that exists throughout the entire universe?
I don't know if we could say there's a fixed amount of prana because there's an endless supply of prana. So, but prana is always there and is universal. And there's many, many levels of prana. And because there's prana that continually circulate within the universe, but there's also prana that can be pulled from the endless potential of the absolute. And in order to bring about a balance in the manifested world. In other words, there's certain levels of prana that is designed to pull on that divine source in order to bring about a stabilization of the manifested prana in order to preserve it through a particular cycle or increase that cycle to allow life forms to gain experience. And we know that prana, we describe that prana as love energy. So that pattern of prana is love energy, which is in ancient teachings is the fourth Shakti principle, Amanda. They describe it as bliss.
Okay, your camera keeps turning off and on. All right, you go further to describe that and say, this all-pervasive subtle energies has a cosmic level, a solar level, a planetary level, and a human level of operation. The prana we use in this solar system comes from our mighty sun through the release of a creative sonic vibration, nada, that delivers the pranas to the planets and its life forms. So the source of this prana is the, you could say is the absolute, and it flows through different compaction or conditioning points like the solar logi throughout the systems or throughout the universe.
Right.
And so when we look at the five major types of prana, major flows of prana, is that a cosmic level, or is those five major flows of prana a human level of operation?
It's actually both. It's actually both. It's a cosmic and earth level. It's a cosmic level, a solar level, and a planet level, and a humanoid level of energy. And when it gets to the humanoid level of energy, because of the level of consciousness that we live on, the manus level of consciousness we live on, you have minor pranas that is actually the pranas mutate and create 5 minor pranas along with the 5 major pranas, and they interact together in order to push the animal or the human life forms in cycles of experience and cycles of consciousness, you know, and that's where you get into the levels of tamas, rajas, and sattvic, which are states of minds or qualities of mind that shape and mold the 5 major and 5 minor pranas, you know, and that's why we have an awakened state, a sleep state, and a dream state of consciousness, you know, because of the interplay of the positive and negative energies that create patterns and cycles of of consciousness and awareness. Is that, did you understand?
Yes, yes. So when you say here, the prana we use in the solar system comes from our mighty sun through the release of the cosmic sound vibrations. This is where the idea of everything solidified sunlight comes from.
Right.
Everything is composed of the sonic, of the prana released via that sonic vibration
Yeah,
from
the
the sun.
sun, the mighty sun, which is a god to us, it it only repeats the actions of the absolute, of the supreme being God. In the beginning, in every religion, it says that God spoke the word and the word was God, and creation came about. Well, what the sun does, the sun speaks the word and creates a realm, multiple realms of existence to allow trillions of life forms to exist. The same way the galaxy speaks the word, the central sun of the galaxy and the galaxy itself speaks the word, and to allow all the solar systems to exist. And then the solar system, the logi of the solar system, speaks the words through the sun, and to allow the sun to create this havoc matter from itself, to allow all the planets to exist and to allow the life forms on the planets. Then the planet itself, the logos of the planets themselves speak the word again, because the earth releases a sound vibration there, and it creates the realms of existence in order to allow the life form to live here. And we're told that the earth speaks this through 49 fires, or 49 psychic centers or chakras within the earth itself. And these 49 chakras create the 7 major realms of existence in order to allow all life forms to exist here on earth. And that's how that works.
Okay.
And it's not a actual sound. It's a soundless sound. It's a creative soundless sound that's repeated throughout the universe.
We have a couple questions here in the chat. Could you kindly expand on the inner and outer prana as for your teaching? Is the notion of prana equal to the notion of ether in your teachings?
In a lot of the theosophical and metaphysical world, a lot of the people that came after the theosophical, the Western theosophical, they got a lot of stuff wrong. If you go back to the original teachings of the Hindus or the Vedas, you can, and then those people who translated that from those teachings, whether the teachings came through Egypt, Africa, or India, or Tibet, it all describes the 5 major pranas. And it also describes a level of pranas, or we don't call them pranas, we call them Mahabhutas, which are the cosmic elements of the universe. So, what time is it? It's a lot to go into right now. What time you have?
So about an hour and 10 minutes into the class, about 13:20, 1:20 right now.
All right, so yeah, so you have the Mahabhutas. I give a quick overview of it. You have the Vak, which is the initial sound that comes from the absolute, right? Which moves the unmanifested, which moves a fraction of the unmanifested life of the absolute into a manifested a realm of existence. Then you have what's called, which you got the chart up, which calls the Vak turns into the Nata Shakti, because everything is Shakti. Everything is Shakti. So the Shakti, we know that the Shakti have 4 karmic signatures. And that's an understand. It's good to know that we call it karmic signatures. And those karmic signatures is Vijnani, Chitta, Prana, and Amana, which actually shapes and mold the Shakti throughout the universe. The Nana is wisdom, intelligent. It creates the movement or the intelligence patterns that the energy will follow. Chitta is universal mind, which shapes the Shakti. It shapes and molds the Shakti into certain cycles. And then the prana is just the pure energy that responds to Chitta and Nani. It's the only way it can exist, because the intelligent movements come from Nani. The mold and the shape and mold of cycles come from Chitta, which is absolutely pure. And then you have Amana, which preserves this whole thing throughout the universe, which creates a blissful flow throughout the universe. And then from there, you have the Mahabhutas, which is Akasa, Vaya, Tejas, Apas, and Verities, which is etheric sound, Akasa, which has the ability to create space. Then you have Vaya, which is etheric air or gas. Then you have Tejas, which is etheric, which is cosmic etheric heat, fire, the ability to transform and things. And then you have Apas, which is etheric liquid. And then you have Verities, which is the solids. And then all of this goes into the sun, the Mahabindus across the galaxy, and they modify this into tabic matter, into a cosmic, into a solar tabic matter, because you also have a universal tabic matter. And that's the patterns of energy. Now, when it comes down to our level, it's modified again by the moon, by the planet, and by the human beings, or the animal kingdom, the insect kingdom, the human kingdom. All the different kingdoms modify this energy in order to utilize this energy. It's just like we breathe energy. We breathe in air, but we exhale carbon dioxide. The plant life creates the oxygen, and then we create the carbon dioxide that helps feed the plant life. So in a subtle level, we're given these five major pranas, and then we expel the five minor pranas. I hope that answered the question.
So this handout is also in the shared folder. But one thing I want to stress too is that, and Nehemiah stressed it as well, he said karmic signatures. So when he mentioned earlier that everything is within a framework of karma, this is exactly what we were talking about. Nothing operates outside of karma. All yogas are karma yoga. Is the nervous system a physical representation of the nadi system?
Yeah, it is. It is. That's what we're told. It is. You have the soul creates this auric unit that I like the way the Theosophical calls it a unit, and Dr. George King called it the auric structure or the auric body. I like that as well too, because it creates this localized field of Shakti power, what we call the auric body or auric field. And then within that, it allows the Ida and Pingala, not a flow of energy, which is a negative energy and a positive energy, create patterns or modes of motion using the Mahabhutas, the prana, the five major pranas, the five minor pranas, the mind, the chitta, the manas is created from the chitta, because the chitta is pure mind energy that's everywhere. But once it comes into contact with this localized field of man or animal, it turns into manas. And the same, if you can imagine the same thing, you breathe in energy and you breathe in oxygen and you release carbon dioxide. Well, you breathe in this chitta and then you release this manas. So you always have that double play there. And the auric body captured all these different patterns of energy and create this indestructible ovoid shape of shield or atmosphere that carry us from life to life to life to life. It keeps a karmic pattern of ourselves until we pull all this energy back into the chakras, which is our real consciousness and our real vortex of power. It pulls it in and push it up with the vehicle of consciousness called Kundalini, and pushes it to the highest realm of existence, which is the Christ chakra and the Buddhic chakra, which is the crown chakra and the third eye and the crown chakra. And then we ascend. And now when we become an ascended master, the auric body becomes an energy source for the risen body. So if you looked at a ascended master, you wouldn't necessarily see the aura, but you'll see this brilliant living light that radiates from his or her skin or existence, and they utilize every aspect of this cosmic substance of pure Shakti. because at that point they have no impurity traits that we talk about that builds up in the body and all these different negative samskaras. They don't have that. They have all positive, and they have pulled this energy in so that they dictate what energy they release back to the world, because we pollute the world with our auric bodies. Their chitta don't necessarily have to be pushed out as negative minus. It's pushed out as a positive minus at that point because they predetermine all their actions. Okay, I hope everyone understands that.
I had a quick question. Predetermining all your actions, how does that differ from like destiny or fate?
What do you mean by that?
Is it just predetermination on a different level? So like if it is your destiny to perform a certain mission, does that mean that action has been predetermined on by your higher self, as opposed to you actively predetermining all of your actions towards a specific goal?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a particular mission, then you predetermine your action, then you work towards that mission. All your actions will go towards that mission. I mean, whether you realize it or not, if that's your destiny, if that's the lesson you need to learn in this life, things and if you're working with that consciousness, of course, that's what's going to happen. Especially an ascended master, they only move when it's necessary to move. They only move towards. They only create an action that's going to create a positive action. In other words, that's what predetermine your action means. They don't move in order to create a action that's going to bring about negative results.
Okay. What does it mean when you see purple violet light when you're with open eyes?
It depends on what you're looking at and what state of mind you're in and what level of psychic energy you're tapping into. Now they say every color has a particular meaning or energy, but I would tell you that that's true, but at the same time, every color exists on every realm of existence. So the meaning of that is determined by you, and you have to examine your level of mind, your level of consciousness, what you was doing, what you was looking at, and what level you was tapping in on. So now, of course, we're told that this violet type color is a highly elevated spiritual color. And that's true. And we're told that the purple color is a highly spiritual color, and that's true too. But it's also a fact that energy, pure energy, is like a bullet, It has no direction until you aim it and direct it somewhere. So we could take energy and mold it and shape it, and good energy, pure energy, and mold it and shape it to do horrible things. So just think about that. So it depends on what you was looking at, and you can, and in time you could tell the good from the bad, the energy that's been discolored and the energy that haven't been discolored. So you have to come to that determination from your own observation.
On Earth, humans, hold on, let me move this so I can see it better. It says, on Earth, humans deviate from karma, having chosen free will over freedom, as you put it. Are we the only entities or beings within the framework you explained before that deviate from karma in any way?
We don't deviate from karma. I mean, I wouldn't say the word deviate, because you cannot deviate from karma. Every every action is karma. The word, if you look at the word karma and substitute it for action, and then the laws of action, then you'll understand karma better. We don't deviate from karma. We may bring about a greater pressure of karma, because karma is the energy that governs action. So when we move away from the correct or correct actions that produce positive results, when we move away from those correct actions, we only activate a different energy of karma to bring about pressure to force us back to the right action, the right pattern of motions or actions or movement. So we're not deviating from karma, because karma is good, bad, and indifferent. But karma is the pressure. The ultra positive karma is the thing that brings about the pressure that makes us move forward in the right direction, back to what the old Hindus or Hare Krishnas say, back to the Godhead. So karma is a pressure that conforms us, as Dr. George King said, that conforms us to do the right thing, in other words. So we're not deviating. Now, to your question, a part of the I wouldn't say human, but a part of the humanoid intelligence decided to exercise free will. And this free will brought on a domino effect of reactions. We created an action and it caused a reaction. We create another action that caused multiple reactions. We create another action because of our free will. Instead of walking down the road that was clearly laid out to us to walk down, we said, no, we don't want to take the road of freedom, which if we would have walked down that road, we would have access to all the Shakti power, of the absolute. You know, we could have stayed in the realms of the laws of creation, but we decided to go down this dark pathway of free will and respond to the vehicles, the gross manifested vehicles of our existence, instead of responding to the elevated universal consciousness of the absolute. I hope that answers your question.
Do you offer any learning material according to your IMKC teaching methodology, except or other than the class notes on the drive?
Yeah, we have a lot of class notes. We just got to gather them up. I mean, we have, I don't know, doing where we have what, hundreds of pages.
Yeah, hundreds of.
So we're in the process of putting all that together. But I think with this, with the methodology in which I teach, I think we put together like a 30, 40, or 50 page document describing that. I was going through it a while ago at the beginning of this year, and we can release that pretty soon.
Yeah, we also have our main website, mysticknowledge.org. A lot of resources there, including ebooks that you can download. And we also have our YouTube channel, where you know about, because that's where you are now. And we have made plenty of videos of previous lectures that we've released. But the methodology is the outline that Nehemiah follows. So everything follows or flows into that outline. The YouTube classes, all the material on the website, and even the open discussions, everything fits into that methodology. So there's plenty of resources available, including some of the other books and authors that Nehemiah recommends. Okay. So if we can hop back to this handout, I'm going to look at the left-hand side at the chakra diagram. I'm going to start at the bottom at the base of the spine. So there are 7 major chakras that are publicly disclosed, or at least 7 that are publicly disclosed. And those are the 7 major chakras along Sushumna, including the crown chakra. And at time, there are also the 2 major chakras pointed out in the diagram in the hands. So the first, the base of the spine chakra, is the point of formation of Kundalini, which is the vehicle of consciousness for the soul. Kundalini is a dormant Shakti power manipulated by the soul to create a state of consciousness to expand basic life. And if we kind of go up to the top at this paragraph here, it expands a little further on that idea. So the dormant Kundalini blocks the doorway to Sushumna. While the active Kundalini flows through the nadis, making all conscious and non-conscious movement possible. A negative simulation of these energy flows, wrong thought and action, causes a drag and non-responsiveness to the conscious demands of this life force. This results in a negative excitement of chakras, creating multi-levels of Maya consciousness, which demands multiple life cycles to correct. Okay, there's a lot in that paragraph there. We'll kind of come back to that, but I kind of just want to finish going up Sushumna. This is here in this paragraph on the right-hand side here. Kundalini, a dormant power located at the base of the spine by the soul, manipulating a potent flow of concentrated Shakti power through the Brahma Nadi, which is within this blue line going up the center of the ore here. This is located within the inner chambers of Sushumna. Once at the base of the spine, the Shakti becomes Kundalini power, which works as a vehicle of consciousness for man in his many cycles of life. So does that mean that this Kundalini, that this same Kundalini energy is carried throughout every incarnation, or is it a different Kundalini energy throughout with each incarnation?
No, it's contained within the auric body, so it's the same Kundalini. You have to tame that Kundalini. You have to shape it and mold it into the vehicle in which you need it to be. You, the soul, need it to be in order to raise consciousness throughout the chamber of major chakras.
And you call this Kundalini a dormant power. Why is it dormant? Why isn't it awake?
Because 90% of it is dormant. Over 90% of it is dormant. And only a small percentage is active, which creates the nodic system. But it's like that because of the position that it's in. It cannot be fully awakened in the at the Muladhara chakra, because the soul, have not conditioned that area area in order to actually stabilize that power at that level. So by karmic law, it falls into a dormant state, and which the ancient books say the whole becomes not whole, and Shiva is revealed. So the Shiva state, it goes into this Shiva state, which is a state of endless potential and silent, motionless, and but yet a source of power, because it's following the pressures and the laws of karma. But it releases the sound vibration that releases a small aspect of itself to create the pathways of consciousness, so that we can use that in order to move through evolution.
So in that previous diagram of the modification of Shakti, where we looked at it being released from the absolute and pushed all the way down to the earth, and the earth modified 5 major pranas, is that a similar process to what's happening in the auric structure, where that Shakti power is pushed down Sushumna and becomes Kundalini at the Muladhara?
It's a similar process, because it solidifies itself. And that's what we do. We go from a solid state to a subtle state, back to a subtle state, back to a solid state. But in the manifested world, it's all physical, but at different grades of physical.
Different grades of physical, as in corresponding to the various realms.
you have a gross physical level, which we are existing and speaking on now. Then you have a astrophysical level, and you have a an etheric physical level. If we project it from our physical bodies and went to several of the astral planes, we would notice that once we get there and materialize our astral form, we cannot push our hand through the desk, wall, or chair. We have to open the door. But the only way we can do that if we vibrate our vibrations to a higher level in order to move through solid objects there, the way we would move through solid objects here on the physical plane in the astral body. But once we manifest ourselves on that realm of existence, everything becomes solid. So we will have to have a degree of mental power and mental control in order to move from one place to the next. And we'll have to understand the how gravity works, how everything works in order to function there. Which it works similar to here once you solidify yourself. But everything operates on 7 dimensions on every plane of existence. So you have the willpower, the mind, you have motion, you have time, and you have length, breadth, and height. So, which is the solids on every plane of existence. So every plane of existence is physical. It's the level of willpower and mind that allows you to navigate through those realms and have power, and that determines the power that you will have. You understand?
Yes, I understand. And so next we move on to the sex chakra. The sex chakra is the seat of basic consciousness. It is where the mental and vital life forces expand itself throughout the entire body. Now, last week we identified the mental and vital life forces as the Ida and Pingala nadis. So does that mean the Pingalis, the nadis originate or start from the sex chakra and expand outwards throughout the body?
No, it starts from the base chakra. Remember, the base chakra does what?
Is it
it houses what?
The Kundalini power.
Kundalini.
And then Kundalini does what?
It releases the sound and it spreads itself throughout the bodies.
So Nati sounds like what?
Nada.
Nata. So Nata is what?
The soundless sound vibration.
The soundless sound. Nata sound is what? What I tell you sound represents?
Consciousness.
Consciousness. So the nadis carries a flow of energy that's controlled by what?
The nada.
The nata, which is a universal consciousness of the absolute. You understand?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what does, it creates patterns throughout the body. In fact, we're told that it moves around the body and creates 200-some thousand patterns. Some yogi masters or Swami said it creates 750 patterns, and then some say it only creates 72,000 patterns. I think it's around 200,000 patterns at least, and you can branch it off into 700, I believe, too. Or you can just take the major ones and say it's 72. I don't think that neither one of them is wrong. But what happens is when it creates these patterns, it links up with 108 chakras within the body. Those 108 chakras within the body are vortex centers or windows of the auric body, which allows energy in, energy out, energy in, energy out. And it creates 108 levels of consciousness, you know, and then it all flows back to the major chakras, which we know of at least 9 major chakras within the body, and really 11 major chakras in the body, because you have major chakras within the feet as well. So, but we mostly speak about 9 major chakras, and that's the 7 along the spine and above the spine, and the 2 chakras within the hand, and that expresses our consciousness. Okay, it expresses the 7-dimensional state of consciousness that we have. It also expresses the quality of mind we have from the tamas, rajas, and sattvic quality of mind we have, right? And it also expresses the awakened state, the sleep state, and the dream state through all those 9 major chakras.
So when it says here that the sex chakra is the seat of basic consciousness, does that mean that most of our conscious experience or expression is being experienced through the sex chakra? That's where a majority of our consciousness resides?
Yes, because the energy within the sex chakra radiates throughout the entire body. It carries consciousness throughout the entire body. And the sex chakra is a it expresses it expresses the negative and positive energy best, the polarity that we seem to exist on and work through and manifest in our daily life. In all our sciences, it's always a positive and negative. There's always this polarity, even in how we use electricity. We have the receptacle and we have the plug. A car, we always have a negative part and a positive part. You have the key and you have the ignition. You know, it's always a positive and negative. You have the distributor or the solenoid, and then you have the starter. You know, and then, or you have the ignition, and then you have you have the flywheel, and then you have the crankshaft. So it's always this negative, this pull on this X and O thing. You know, you have a frame of a door, and then you have the door that swings. So the frame holds the door, and in order for the door to swing, and that represents male, female throughout our whole existence. We use that energy to express ourselves throughout every single thing we do. You know, and that's because why? That's the level of consciousness that we operate from. Some people say, "Oh, we operate from the heart chakra now." No, we do not. If we operated from the heart chakra now, we would be able to. We wouldn't have all the impurities that we have here on Earth. We wouldn't have the impurity traits that we have here on Earth. There would be no 30, 40,000 hungry people in the United States, or millions or billions of people in the world that's hungry, and millions and billions of people without water. We wouldn't have that, because we wouldn't let stupid politics or even distance stop us from making sure that everybody have what they need. We wouldn't have, we wouldn't be denying people basic needs, because we'll see how ridiculous that is.
So that's why you have the 5 major pranas here on the chart being related to or pointing to the sex chakra, because that is our seat of consciousness, in a sense.
Yes, it's the seat of consciousness.
Okay. I think this is referring to the lights question. No, it's a different question. Okay. Every day, pretty much throughout the day, I have a very light feeling throughout my body, almost as though I'm floating, and need to sit at times. Does this mean I'm in a low vibrational state?
I don't know, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I have to understand what this person is saying. And like I said, always be practical. If you're having a certain feeling, check with a doctor. And then when you know that there's nothing going wrong, then look on the spiritual side. But also on the spiritual side as well, I would examine my state of mind, because your state of mind can push you. I wouldn't say low vibration. I would say a higher vibration if you're feeling like floating out of the body. And then what are you doing to cause this? I know many years ago, I was a teenager, matter of fact. I was experimenting with astral projection. And because astral projection had always came natural to me from a child. From when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, I was able to split my consciousness and run all over the neighborhood, until my father caught me in a projected state and banned me from doing that, and created a shield so that I couldn't do it. But later on, when I hit my teenage years, I began to lose the ability to do that as quick and fast as I was able to do it as a child. So I went and started using different techniques. And one of the techniques I used, I shouldn't have been using. And one day I was driving down the road, and all of a sudden I started having a separation. I started feeling light and floating right out of my body. And almost got in a car accident. And if I didn't have a certain degree of concentration and contemplation, I probably wouldn't be talking to you now, but I was able to place a part of my consciousness back into the body, and find a parking lot where I can park and allow the separation to happen completely and then re-enter my body again. So when you have this light flow, the question is, are you dealing with some type of yogic practice or astral projection, or a lot of these different groups give out these practices which they shouldn't be giving out without proper instructions. And that can cause things like that too on a purely psychic spiritual level. And you need to be guided into these things and guided out of these things. So I hope that answer. It's not a low vibration. A low vibration would take you deeper into the body, into a solid state. A higher vibration will float you out of a high. Because the astral body, although it's an emotional body, if you can move consciousness into the astral body at will, that astral body is a risen body. And that means that you have gained some type of control over your basic emotions and emotional sensations.
If possible, I would like to know how you can explain the difference between a Kundalini experience versus prana rising.
A Kundalini experience is bringing about a degree of conscious death. A prana experience is gaining access to a large quantity of prana. And this is done by using the existing Kundalini within the body. When you gain access to a huge amount of prana within the body, and then you manipulate that prana in order to bring about something. So that's the difference. The difference is in the Kundalini state, you go into a conscious state of death. And like I say, always that you need an adept or master to guide you into that state in the beginning.
Are you planning to do a review of the book Kundalini Vidya by Joanne Shivarpita Arigan?
I don't. Is that book on our website?
I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar to me. The author's name doesn't sound familiar to me.
I have no plans to do that. I studied under someone else.
Another question, when acting unconsciously or acting out, we are operating at the lower chakra level, which feeds into negative energy, causing one to vibrate at a lower level. This thus preventing us from ascending to higher vibration and stay trapped in negativity until we become aware of our actions and change. So that's a question.
Is that a question?
Yeah, that's a question. I guess they're asking.
They said what now?
It says, when acting unconsciously or acting out, are we operating at the lower chakra levels, which feed into negative energy, causing one to vibrate at a lower level? And does this prevent us from ascending to higher vibrations and stay trapped in negativity until we become aware of our actions and change?
Now, I think I said that earlier, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Everyone, if I'm going too fast with the handout or it's getting a little bit much, let me know in the chat and we'll, I guess, save the rest of it for next week. But I'm just going to stop here at solar plexus center. And then we'll finish up the diagram next week. So solar plexus, vortex center is the point that transforms the subtle and gross base of mental coding of the energies. What does that mean?
The question was what?
Or
Are
what
you
is,
asking about the solar plexus again?
yeah, so in the diagram, so the solar plexus vortex center is the point that transforms the subtle and gross base of mental coding of the energies.
Yeah, that's well, if you look at the pattern, the samatha prana within the solar plexus center is the conjunction point for all the pranas. All the pranas pass through the solar plexus, and the solar plexus is the thing that moves subtle energy into physical energy and physical energy into subtle energy. And so it's that central location for all the energies, and it moves energy from like I said, from the subtle level to the gross level, and back from the gross level back to the subtle level. And that's why you have uh, the stomach in that region, the small intestines in that region, the large intestines in that region. That's why you have it there, because on the subtle energy level is that energy that represents light, represents fire, heat. You know, because what does those things do? It 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 transforms energy from one state to the next state.
Okay, so in those three centers, the solar plexus, the sex center, and the the base spine center, those constitute what we call the lower centers or the lower realms. So what does it mean where we say that for example, the sex chakra is the seat of basic consciousness, and those three centers of lower realms, what does that mean?
Well, correction, is the lower higher realms.
That's correct, lower higher, sorry.
Okay. You understand that?
Yes, I understand.
Because you have 7 chakras below the base of the spine, which is called the lower realms, or the lower hells.
Right. So does that mean that the bulk of our conscious experience is housed within the lower higher realms?
Yeah, I mean the one that we have the most direct control over. Now we have our moments that our consciousness move up to the heart chakra, a segment of our consciousness, and we work from there for a minute or two when we take on a certain mission or frame of thought, frame of mind. We bounce back and forth and use the higher chakras in order to bring about higher understanding. Yes, that does happen. It might be happening now as you study these teachings. It might be happening when you go out and do a particular work where you serve humanity. You a segment of your consciousness operating from a higher level because you disconnect your personal feelings from from the person you're helping. You just want to help them because they are who they are. Yeah, and it's not because who they are. They are in need, and you want to help, and all personal feelings lead. Those basic chakras have you identify people, uh, through shape, race, and all this other stuff, which doesn't really matter. Your higher consciousness see them as a divine spark of God on a journey through the soul, gaining experience in order to become a Jesus, a Buddha, a Krishna, So you don't personalize things. You see them for who they are, and they are a divine spark of God.
Okay, if there are any final questions, I think this is a good place for us to close out for today. And just as a recap, today we looked at the prana as a universal life force. And we also took a look at the modification of the Shakti and how it starts from the absolute and reaches all the way to our level of conscious existence as a, we looked at the dormant Kundalini in the housed in the Muladhara. We looked at the sex chakra as the seat of a basic consciousness, and we looked at the solar plexus as a vortex center of transformation of subtle and physical energies. Next week, we'll take a look at the next centers moving along Sushumna. We'll look at the heart center, we'll look at the throat center, the Christ center, and the crown. And then we'll also talk about an active flow of Kundalini and how the pranas radiate throughout the body, the major pranas. So that's this diagram here on the far right-hand side where we can depicted how the different pranas circulate throughout the body. And hopefully we'll be able to finish up this diagram and we'll move into another set of diagrams. Are there any further questions before we close out? All right, so let's go ahead and get ready to close out with the prayer. Put this in read mode. Okay. Everybody see that on their screen? The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing, granted energy to sing on, forever and forever. All right, everybody. Thank you, Nehemiah, and thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all next week. Oh, also, some of you were saying you're having questions with the homework, reviewing the handouts. The handouts tie to classes on the YouTube. So you can go back and review some of those classes to help you better follow along with the handouts and as you're going through your homework and reviewing them. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.